bled through my shoe on that one last year.
I lost on my time,
Yeah.
but I like.
We should move tomorrow's show.
I don't know if you remember this.
Ask the chat.
Chat,
the
are we
chat.
live? Oh gosh.
I thought I had muted myself already.
And I was
All right. At long last, we are live. Welcome to the 2024 Broken Arrow Skyrace Freetrail's coverage of that amazing race weekend. We are fresh off the 46K. We've got the men's podium here with us in studio. We'll get to them in just a sec. Before we do, an introduction, a reintroduction of our co-host throughout Broken Arrow and Western States Race Week, none other than Corrine Malcolm. She needs no introduction. Corrine, hello.
Hi, I cut my bangs just for this.
An amazing warm day here in Olympic Valley. Corrine and I, this is our fourth year in a row doing this together. Wouldn't have it any other way. Joining us for the duration of race week, across race weekends, Broken Arrow and Western States, the great Tim Tollefson, the Eastern Sierra Samurai. Tim, welcome to Trailgating. Good to see you.
Thank you. I will cut my hair whatever way the people in the chat tell me to.
So we are live here. We've got the men's podium here. We're going to chat with them here in just a second. We've got the women's podium. We're going to bring them up, and we're going to get their take on what was an action-packed day of racing here on day 2 of the 2024 Broken Arrow Skyrace. If you missed it, go back and watch our Trailgating from yesterday when we recapped the VK, a sick race. We had a great time chatting with some of the podium performers, including Patrick Kipyego, Joyce and Jeru, who will be racing again tomorrow in the 23K. We're going to be live here for at least an hour, and then we'll be back again tomorrow to conclude our Broken Arrow coverage after the 23K. So don't go anywhere. And subscribe to the channel, would you? Please. Thanks so much. To the men, David Sinclair, the champ. Bro, you smashed it. You've been a champion here in the past. You live locally. I talked to your buddy at the end of the first lap. He said you're getting ready to move away. Tell us about that first.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big move. I'm from, my partner Isabel are from Vermont, so I've been out here for 5 winters, ski coaching, and we've loved running out here, skiing out here. It's gonna be hard to leave the weather, but I'm on the U.S. Skimo team for next year, so I'm gonna try to go all in for a winter of World Cup Skimo racing, and we decided it's gonna be easier to move back and be based out of Vermont so we'll be around till late July, and then big move across the country, and yeah, I'll really miss it here, but looking forward to a new chapter.
Before we go any further, you're sort of an enigma. Those of us who are deeply endemic to the sport of trail running know a lot about you. I know that you're sort of a Nordic guy, but you're not somebody that posts a lot on social media. So maybe just give people a sense of what you've been up to recently. 2 seasons ago, you were on an absolute heater. Last year, you were a little bit quiet. Here you are, taking home a big W today.
Yeah, I had had a tough kind of last couple of years where I think exactly like 2 years ago, I ran the Canyons 100K. I was kind of getting interested in maybe doing some longer ones and was really enjoying it. And then out of nowhere, my IT bands just started giving me a ton of problems. So I limped through that, summer, still race well. And then after the rut, I just, couldn't walk anymore. So tried rehab and eventually had to get surgery, and then recovery from surgery was kind of a long road. I'm still not, 100% healthy with the IT bands. They bother me from time to time, but this winter doing Skimo seemed to get me really fit and not bother them. And so since then I've been running, building up slowly, trying to be a little bit smart to manage the numerous injuries I've kind of battled between the IT band, some tendinitis in the last 2 years. So I'm just super grateful to be running healthy right now.
We've got a lot of Skimo boys up here. Jeff as well. I know that you've come off a winter of being on skis. This time last year, we had a much snowier course, and I think that you enjoyed the snow maybe more than anyone last year around based on the photo evidence of the race. Tell us a little bit about how the race played out, and then a follow-up question is someone wants to know how many go-go squeezes you ate during the race today.
I have fueled with go-go squeezes in the past. Costco, baby. But the race today was great. Seth took it out super hot, and then I was behind him with a train of guys, and then when things opened up, David soared ahead of me, and Adam and I ran together for a bit. We're kind of back and forth for a while. And coming into lap 2, I think we were 5th and 6th about, and yeah, I put in what I thought was going to be a decisive move to drop everyone behind me, and it dropped no one. And I passed a couple of people, but I turned around and Adam was right there. And I was like, oh, no, this is bad. But I was also so excited to see him. And we kind of joined forces and ran together a bunch. And I don't know if you remember this, but we were running the other week, and I told him we were coming down the L on Jumbo. And I was like, I don't know, like, of course I want to beat you, but I also want you to beat me. And whatever happens, I want it to like hurt a lot. Like I want us to like get the most out of ourselves. And I think we did that. Yeah. And David was far ahead of us. I kept being like, maybe we'll get David, but he stomped us.
Never saw him.
And Adam, one of the great young guns of our sport, fan favorite. It's so nice to see you back out in the racing season after you had an absolute historic 2022 season. You could not lose anything. Everything you touched turned to gold. And then you had a really hard period of injuries for a full season, some serious injuries in there. Mm-hmm. What does it mean just to be back out here competing and being, healthy and building back up towards some of those dreams again?
Oh yeah, it's so nice to be back. Like you said, 2021 and 2022 were kind of like my first big years in ultra, and like it went really well. Everything was great, but I ended up getting this big stress fracture last year and pretty much derailed the whole season. And I've just been really meticulous getting back from that. But now I'm like over a year since I did that injury, so fortunately I feel like I can kind of train how I used to, and yeah, it's great. Just happy to be like racing again and feeling good. Like I did Canyons 100K. About a month and a half ago, and like that didn't go very well. So it's good to see like progress here. And yeah, it was a really fun day with Jeff. Like he mentioned, it was really cool since we trained together so much to just be like pushing the course and moving past people that second lap.
So MK Sullivan's in the audience here today.
She'll be joining us in the second half of the show.
And I know that you guys shared some moments, I think, during Canyons. Did you have any PTSD knowing that you're going to be back on the start line with MK today?
We almost did, because yeah, she was closing in on me, and I think the live tracker said she was going to pass me, but this was at Canyons last month. But yeah, fortunately I had a second wind with like 4 miles to go, and she didn't catch me. But I think we said something to each other before the race. I think I told her I hope she doesn't beat me today. So not very nice of me.
David, back to you. Talk about the strategy a little bit. I saw you come through in the lead after the first lap, and it seemed like you just put more and more time on everybody through the duration. But I heard that Seth took it out hot. At what point did you take the lead? At what point did you break the elastic on Cam and know that you had it in the bag?
Yeah, it was definitely a hot pace, and I let the top guys go a little bit, and the plan was just to kind of be close enough to win after one lap. I've had a few times where it's just, that second lap, there's often a lot of, blow-ups, cramping, positive splits, and especially with the heat. I felt the heat yesterday in the VK, and yeah, luckily the legs seem a lot better today. I think I was better with the cooling strategy, so I was just trying to be patient and ended up feeling so good the first time on like the big climb up Red Dog Ridge that I was just kind of power hiking and got up into like kind of just behind Cam. So we were kind of just chatting and trying to be like in control all the way up to the top the first time. And then we ran together all the way down to Shirley Canyon, and we started climbing again. I was like not really pushing it yet, but I started to get a little gap there. And I was like, okay, like I think I'm still feeling good, feeling strong. The nutrition was like, and the, staying cool was working well. So when I lapped through, I did a exchange, like got a new wet shirt, got a wet buff on, dumped some water in my head, and like, got another few gels to go. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling good. Time to like just push it a little bit more. And by the time I got back to the climbing, I was like feeling good. So the first lap, I was just kind of power hiking all the steep sections. And second lap, I started to dig deep in there and tried to run as much as possible. And it was really, really starting to hurt by the top. And then I was like, oh, just got to hold on the whole way down.
Tiny detail I want to hear from you in a sec. Rod, you want to play that clip that we have? We're going to play a cool clip of David for the live stream, not for our live studio audience here, but I got a really cool clip of you coming over the top of High Camp before the final glorious few miles downhill to the finish line here to your victory. But the small detail I'm curious about, hot, sunny day. What do you have against hats and sunglasses and stuff? I don't understand how you stay cool in weather like this when you're not covering yourself up. Is that a Nordic strategy or?
Oh, I just don't, I don't have any nice sunglasses. I actually been running in a pair, and
Sunglass companies.
I lost them a couple of days ago, so I'm out of sunglasses. I didn't have any nice ones. So
I was roasted up there.
I went with the visor today on the first lap, and then accidentally forgot it coming through the lap. So I was hatless, but I kept dumping snow down the back of my neck. I think the buff worked really well, just to like I tried to stay wet as much as possible, and like I was pretty pleased with it hasn't been hot here. It was like 34 degrees out on Monday morning when I did my last like real training run, and I was like, oh, this is nice. So the heat has not been my strong suit in the past, so I was glad to feel like I ran strong the whole way.
Yeah, and I just want to say that you did pull off a negative split, which is doable here, but very hard. You came through the first lap in I think just over 2 hours,
Just over
and so
2.
yeah, I think we got about a 60-second negative split out there.
I think 2 years ago, the last time I ran the 46K here, it was about I hung on to win that year too, but it was more like a 20-minute positive split. So I was I was expecting to slow down a lot more, and just like kept surprising myself every time I went uphill that the legs were not cramping.
So while you were out there, or I saw you and Cam coming through at about mile 10 just before high camp, and the two of you, this was the first lap. You guys both looked very comfortable. Being, pretty big skiers and skimo athletes, did you guys share any words with each other of just like how it's like, I don't know, kind of coming from the ski world into the trail world, and you're both leading this race with such a stacked field. Any thoughts on kind of just the crossover athlete of the ski mountaineer, Nordic skier to trail running?
Yeah, no, it was fun running with him. I know he's like the best skimo athlete in the country, but I haven't actually been to many of any actual skimo races with him, because he was like racing in Europe and I was racing domestically. So I've seen him at a few running races, and we're usually pretty close. He got me by like a minute yesterday, I think, in the VK, and we were chatting about skimo racing this winter and how the VK went yesterday. So it was fun chatting that first lap with him, and yeah, it's really good mile shared.
All right, so Jeff, Adam, share the story of the finish between the two of you guys, because Jeff, I got a cool clip of you, which I think Ryan is playing now also, and I told you, I heard that at the top of Shirley, it was about 2 minutes, Adam's behind you. Sure enough, it was more like 30 seconds, and you guys were both absolutely hauling. Share that story with the audience.
Yeah, I saw you at the top of Shirley, and you said Adam was 2 minutes behind me, and in my head I was just like, no, he's not. He is way closer than that, because I kept looking back, and I started running faster, and it hurt a lot, and I definitely sobbed at one point. And I guess I make a lot of noise when I run downhill when I'm in a lot of pain. And it was I just knew, I was like, if anyone's going to catch me, it's going to be Adam, and I cannot let him catch me. And then, sure enough, I don't know how far you finished behind me, but it was really close.
Less than a minute. Yeah, it was like 50 seconds. Yeah.
And so we hugged, and I was just choking back sobs. And it was, I don't know, it was so fun to have one of your best friends push you so hard out there and make each other work for it.
Love it. Let's cry here. Peterman, you next. You next. Let's get sentimental here. Share your story.
What's the question?
Just tell us about the finish, chasing down Jeff. We saw each other at the top of high camp. You knew that, he was within striking distance, and you had to chase. And it's your buddy.
At the same time, it's your buddy. And you guys are very competitive individuals. This is like your training partner.
Totally.
Missoula pride on the line. You both want to beat each other, but at the same time, you're so excited for each other. Just walk us through that emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, totally. Well, because we ended up running a lot of the second lap together, which was cool because I felt like both of us we had a really good second lap. We went from, I think, 5th or 6th into second when we passed Cam. So that felt really cool, just camaraderie. But then, I don't remember if it was before I think it was before the ladder, Jeff just decimated me on one of the climbs. And I was like, oh man, maybe I figured I might be able to catch you up Shirley Canyon. That was my plan. I was just going to go as hard as I possibly could up Shirley Canyon. But yeah, I mean, I was getting a lot of reports from people on the course, including you, Dylan, but people would be like, yeah, Jeff's 45 seconds ahead. And then I never saw you. And I kept getting these reports that you're 45 seconds ahead, but I would see you way farther than 45 seconds ahead. So finally in the final descent, I was going about as fast as I could down that terrain. And at one point I was like, I don't know if I'm going to catch him today. And sure enough, yeah, you were long gone by the time we hit that road. But I don't know, it was pretty cool. Like both of us, when I finished, just to see him right there. And like we said, we never raced an ultra together, so it was special.
Have the Stravas been uploaded? Because Jeff said that you guys were dropping sub 5s down the service road there at the finish line. Can we go do some analysis?
Yeah, I think I was going sub 5, but it's not a full mile. But I mean, down that service road, you could go about as fast as you want. Yeah, there's like no limit, I think, on that, but it's only like a third of a mile.
Rad. Any final questions for our men's podium here, guys?
I have one for David. So yesterday on our prognostication, I made a reference of you to being the Alex Nichols of this generation. And for any historians, they would recognize that name as one of the greats of our time, about in the last decade, but also flew under the radar. He would crush races, he'd top podiums, but no one really would talk about him. And you have had a very similar career in the trail space, where if we talk back to that 2022 season, you were second to Peterman at Canyons 100K, then you went on a burner, 3 of the most iconic 50K wins. As you look forward, you're a hybrid athlete. Like, where's your heart? You know, like, you've had so much success in the trail world. Is there temptation to just go full bore into trail because you know you can compete, or do you see a path forward of kind of being this dual athlete hybrid?
Yeah, it's tempting to go all in on running. You know, I'll probably change my mind every 15 seconds if you ask me. But right now, I've, you know, with the injury problems, like the skimo, Nordic background, being more of a hybrid athlete has seemed to really work with me. Like, I know I'm fit enough to win big races. It's got to like stay healthy. So the plan right now is to not jump into too many races. Keep following the plan to do some cross training, do some skimo training through the summer, and try to go all in on skimo. I'll definitely jump in some more trail races this summer, not decided which ones they will be yet. Yeah, I definitely, you know, I'm a quieter guy. I kind of like to think of myself as an underdog and be a little bit under the radar. It's a, you know, it's a fun way to operate.
It's what makes you a fan favorite. And for those that don't follow the skimo kind of world, in 2026, it's going to be part of the Olympic Games. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
So we are likely sitting next to a future Olympian right here, which is going to be really cool. We're closely going to be following your career, both on the trail and on the snow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. They only do 3 and 8 minute long races in the Olympics this first time, but it's cool to see the sport growing, and you know, it's just super fun to be trying something new and picking it up.
Is that a goal of yours, 2026?
Yeah, I'm on the skimo team, and it's in Italy. I think the skimo events are actually in Bormia. I went to Cortina for the World Cup finals for skimo back in April, and I was like, oh, I'm going to the Olympic venue, and I got there and like, no, this is not the Olympic venue. So that was kind of funny, but yeah, it's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of up and coming guys, and the U.S. team is just going to have to work really hard because we have to beat Canada or the other like North American countries to just get a single athlete to the Olympics.
Yeah, so I think North America gets one guy and one gal, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun to watch, and like we're going to have a team mentality of all like working, having our best results for the whole winter to just, you know, beat Canada, beat maybe like Colombia has a team. We have to be the top North American. Full Americas team.
Wow.
There's only one quota spot for the Americas in this first Olympics, and then hopefully it goes well, and then like the sport keeps growing, and we get lots of young rippers in the skimo world coming up.
What a fun thing to follow.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Big round of applause for our men's podium. Thank you guys for sticking around.
Thank you.
Congratulations on an awesome race. We're going to call the women's podium up here in just a second. We're going to get their side of the story. Then we're going to launch into a preview of tomorrow's 23K with MK Sullivan, who's going to come co-host with us.
Tim, according to the live chat, Tim's either getting a mohawk or not cutting his hair.
Oh, you guys are too kind. Let's not cut the hair.
Yeah, why don't we, so if we can get our women's podium to come join us up here.
Come jump on.
Toni
We are
Mccann,
live.
Amanda
Don't
Basham,
be shy.
Klaire Rhodes.
Bring a cold
Come
beverage and
on
a snack.
Come hang out.
This is going to be great.
And then we'll send you home finally.
Yes.
Toni Mccann from South Africa, our champion, sitting down here. Klaire Rhodes having a seat, and Amanda Basham.
Yeah, get cozy.
What a panel here. Corrine, you want to get us started?
Oh my goodness, what a race. I was thrilled to get to watch it. I came out and was able to see you all lap through the first lap and kind of follow the splits before you all made it back down the mountain. There were some really cool moves that happened out there. There were some good pushes during lap 1. Toni, let's start with you. I know that you were nervous about the altitude going in. How did the altitude actually treat you out there?
It sucks. It's so hard. It's like your lungs are just on fire all the time, and it's so frustrating because my legs felt fine, like I could run, but I just had, there was nothing. There was nothing going from here to here. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, at the start we had all kind of been like, so what's the like vibe and the pace that we're going to go out on? And MK had been like, no, we'll be chilled. It's chilled. And it did not go out chilled. And I feel like we pushed pretty hard in the first half. K and MK really took it out pretty hard. And I soon realized I was not going to be able to keep up with them on that pace. So I tried to play my own game, but it's really hard when you can see the woman ahead of you kind of pulling some distance. So I kind of just knuckled down and tried to keep up because I knew, you've got to kind of keep them in striking distance. And yeah, I guess it was just before the climb up to K2 where I kind of made my first push. And then I got passed again just before the final ascent. But I knew at that point it was going to be like a really nice descent, so I kind of felt confident with that. But yeah, the altitude is really rough, and it certainly is a big element in this race.
Table Mountain isn't this high?
Well, you live in the Chamonix Valley, right?
We've just moved down to Annecy,
Yeah.
so we're a little bit lower now.
Yeah.
Table Mountain's only 1,000 meters, maybe. So yeah, we're a little bit at a disadvantage there, but we certainly have the heat nailed. So yeah, at least there was that.
One of the things I remember when we talked with you for the Trail Runner of the Year award last year was that you sort of said that the 50K distance is your distance. I think you've firmly established yourself as the best, if not one of the best 50K distance athletes in the world. Talk about that specialization. What makes that distance special for you, and why is it such a strength?
Wow. I feel like I need to be very honest here. So I have decided that I'm actually going to be running CCC this year.
Breaking news on Trailgating, folks. Look at the journalism.
So yeah.
Fake news.
I love the 50K distance, and I think it'll always be the distance that I love the most. I feel like it's super competitive always. There's always a stacked field. No matter where you show up, there will be someone who challenges you, and I really love that. I also think it's a race where you can be super tactical, and like you can really play to your strengths in the distance. So yeah, I think 50K will always be where my heart lies, and I think it'll be the distance that I remain good at for multiple years, hopefully. But yeah, I think just going to CCC was I needed a bit of a motivation factor. I was lacking a little bit of motivation to go back to OCC this year. So yeah, I wanted to be there and thought, why not challenge myself with something new? But 50K is definitely where it's at.
So I've got a question for Klaire. You mentioned in the press conference earlier that you're getting to race with people that you admire immensely, including good friend MK Sullivan, OCC champion Toni Mccann. Tell us a little bit about I think that you should be very confident coming out of this race because you put yourself in it. You are running right with your mentors. You landed on the podium. How are you feeling kind of seeing that evolution play out today over 2 laps?
Yeah, I'm honestly really proud of this one. I feel like I have 2 selves. Half of me is really confident and knows that I can run with these girls, but half of me also struggles with confidence for sure in all the ways. But yeah, and I'm like, there's no way I can take it out with them or whatever. And somehow I usually find myself doing it, whether it's the best, smartest move or not. But yeah, it does mean a lot. I've had kind of a hard spring of injury, and I haven't made it to a lot of races I wanted to. So I feel like I really needed this one mentally for the rest of the summer and the rest of the year. So it does mean a lot. Yeah, probably more than I'd like to admit. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep moving down the line. Amanda, you're back in Triple Crown this year. I think that you mentioned that, this is not your distance. We see you more as the 100-mile specialist, but there's an endurance component to showing up 3 days in a row and throwing down on this course. Walk us through a little bit of like, I don't know, the tactic of putting yourself out there and just like seeing what happens.
Well, last year there was a ton of snow, and I'm
A lot of snow.
so bad on the snow. I mean, I even fell on the one patch that was up there today. Not even joking. Both loops, actually. So last year, you can imagine, I basically walked down the mountain. It was so hard. It was like the uphill was fine, the downhill, it was laughable. So I actually wanted to run it. I also didn't sleep much last year because I brought both kids, and I was very sleep
Are
deprived.
the kids here this weekend?
They are not. My nieces, but my kids
I want
aren't.
to ask another question about that, but finish, please.
Yeah, and then a lot of times when I do like a stage race or multiple days in a row, I think more about, oh, I want to be able to feel good tomorrow. I wanted to get that out of my head. I just kind of wanted to do this race and think less about the future and how I was going to feel afterwards. I don't know if that's a smart choice or not. We'll find out tomorrow. But I think it helped me run this race better.
And I guess, sorry, I'm going to cut you off, and then you can ask your follow-up, because my follow-up's to this, and then your follow-up's
Go
to
ahead.
adjacent, to babies. Dylan's got babies on his mind. But, okay, so I know that you and Justin are both into kind of getting training camps in, and I feel like this triple has become kind of a training camp for you. Walk us through that mentality and why you utilize a race weekend like this, kind of in the bigger picture of your training and racing.
Yeah, we definitely, I have the dust cough. We definitely do a lot of training camps. Justin's done more in the last couple of years than I have. My body hasn't really been able to kind of hold up to it. But I'm doing UTMB again this year, and both times that I've done it, it has been a vision quest. And I'd like to not have that happen this year. So I've just kind of changed a lot of things. And then I like coming here and doing it as a race because it's just so different. You run a lot harder, you don't stop and chill and take pictures, and you get to practice your gear and all of that stuff, which you can sort of do on your own. But if you get the chance to do it as a race, especially in like a 3-day type of thing like this, I think that's just more real, more like how the race is going to go.
What about, I wanted to ask you about kids again still, but what about UTMB have you not been able to figure out? Because you've been on the podium of CCC. What about UTMB has been difficult for you to unlock?
Well, I'm really bad with sleep deprivation.
Turns out.
Yeah. But I think the bigger
You're a
thing is
mother
my-
of two. You should be
Well,
advanced level
I
sleep
know.
deprivation
And honestly,
master.
I thought it'd be better last year because of that. It's like, oh, I got this down. I'm like, I never sleep, so it doesn't really matter. Turns out that was not the case. I was just really tired by 9 p.m. But I think it's more my attitude. I get a really shitty attitude. And the longer distance you go, the more likely you're going to have a shitty attitude. And then if it just continues, it's so hard. It's been so hard for me to get out of it. I actually got a sports psych recently, and my attitude today was phenomenal. So it's working.
A+ sports
and
psych.
it was from your podcast.
You only have to maintain that for one more day, and it's only 23 Ks
Yeah,
tomorrow.
no, I'm excited, honestly. I'm very realistic. I know that I cannot run with either of them too. And I never saw them all day. But it made me feel really good that I was at 6th on the first lap coming up, and then I kept catching people who I think I am not in their realm at all. Just not in this distance. So that helped me with the attitude too. But the sports psych was from your Hannah Allgood podcast.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I actually reached out to her girl in Colorado Springs. And so that's who I've been working with. And my attitude has been way better.
I'm so happy to hear that. So
Yeah.
the practical
Changing the
parenting.
world.
Yes.
Saving the world.
Trail running.
Trail running will save the world. One podcast at a time. Practical parenting question. I was texting with Justin recently. I can't remember exactly how it came up, but he said that you guys had made the decision to not travel as much with the whole family and the kids, and that there was probably like a performance element to that.
That's
Speak
like a
about
Killian
that a
and
little bit.
Emily move too. They're doing the same thing. Like one stays home with the kid, one travels to a race.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer because, it's cool to cross the finish line and they're there. But it's really nice that I slept last night.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been the main thing. I mean, we took them everywhere and it's cool. But they don't care that they're in Chamonix. They just want to go to the playground. It could be down the street. It could be in our backyard. They're like, playground. It doesn't really matter. So it's better for everyone if they just, stay home until maybe they're a little older.
Yeah, sweet. Klaire, back to you. I think you mentioned yesterday that did you guys just move back up to Alaska? You had been part of the Reno trail running community just down the hill from where we're sitting now. Talk about that moves, the pros and cons of it, and because it is sort of a unique, novel place to develop a professional trail running career. The real only example of it is the great Jeff Rose, the 2010 champion of Western States, who we haven't heard from in many years.
But I will add, the trail running scene in Alaska is fire.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. My partner Trayson and I were living in Reno for 2 years going to grad school, and we just less than a month ago moved back to Anchorage, where we're both from. Trayson's from a little bit north of Anchorage, whatever. Being in Reno and just being down here in the lower 48, as we say, has been like absolutely crucial to developing our running careers for sure. There's no doubt about that. Just being able to race way more and immerse ourselves in this community. But now I feel like that we've kind of established ourselves. We feel pretty confident that we can continue to train and travel to races from Anchorage. I don't think it would be the ideal place for most people to to train, but it's just kind of the place that we feel most like ourselves, and we, I think, have it figured out. And I'll just speak to the Alaska running community. I think a lot of people don't know, but people are absolute studs up there. Like, I cannot stress it enough. Like, women in their 40s who are absolutely kicking my ass. Sorry, but totally, they're amazing. And people just don't know, but if you come and race a short mountain race, everyone's obsessed with short mountain races there. It's not really about the ultras, it's steep mountain races. And people love that, and they're amazing. So my next race is Mount Marathon, which is the one race people do know of. And from my perspective, those races are absolutely stacked, but people just don't know about these people, but they're absolute crushers. So come up, we'll house you.
Yeah,
Maybe.
And for reference,
Yeah.
Our great lower 48 American champion Zach Miller went up there for Crow Pass and got absolutely just spanked by the locals there.
Yeah, and Zach and Patty O'Leary came up and did Mount Marathon, and they are who they are. We love them.
Yeah, it's different. Now, just to follow up on that, Klaire, I really appreciate you sharing that you struggled with doubt coming into this race. Are there any, and I think that's helpful for everyone to recognize that you just took second place at a completely stacked field. Are there any practical tips that you talk yourself through to overcome that self-doubt when you're lining up on a course this competitive?
I don't know. I kind of fake it till I make it, really. Sadly, Trayson really has to take the brunt of my low confidence days and moments. But he's really good at reminding me that I do belong, and that, various things in training and racing should give me confidence to line up with who I'm lining up with. So yeah, I try to just put that aside when I actually find myself on the line. And I'm I think in the back of my mind, I know what I can do, but I just have my moments.
Toni, back to you, the champ. Ryan's playing a really cool clip that I got of you at High Camp en route to your victory here this morning. I heard earlier this week that you're going to be pacing your friend and teammate Ingvild Kaspersen at Western States next weekend with Danny Moreno. Talk a little bit about that, the trip that you took here to the U.S. in the spring, and what you're looking forward to being part of Western States for the first time.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the training camp back in spring. We were lucky enough to come out to Auburn for almost 2 weeks, and it was amazing. We had terrible weather, but the trails there were absolutely beautiful. It was so green. I was blown away, actually. By
Did you get poison oak?
No.
I was texting them, and I was like, you guys must all go buy Dawn dish soap right now. You must go buy Techno. I was so worried that all my little Europeans were going to get
Yeah, that green is poison oak.
Well, I made sure that I never touched anything. I was very cautious, and I never peed on the side of the trail either because I was very worried. We had been warned multiple times. But thankfully, no poison oak, and we came out unscathed in that sense. Unfortunately, my training camp was not exactly how I imagined. I came out with a bit of a tendinitis in my calf, and that turned into a bit of inflammation around the periosteum and my shin, so it wasn't great, and I took pretty much the whole of May off, just biking and doing what I could. I maintained some sort of running, but it was not optimal at all. So I probably had about 3 or 4 good weeks of training leading up to this, which made me not super confident coming into that. But I also have just been in Flagstaff for 2 weeks, and that was, again, really amazing, up with Ingvild, who is preparing for Western States, and kind of just helping her dial in heat training, her nutrition, me trying to get used to a little bit of altitude. But yeah, it was, I feel very lucky that I get to do these things, and it's always better when you can share it with teammates. In Auburn, we were with Danny and Ingvild, and now I was just up with Ingvild, and we've got a bunch of friends up there as well, so it was really cool to see like the Flagstaff running community. I feel like everyone who's everyone is there. So I made a very concerted effort to not look at Strava while I was there, because those segments are untouchable.
Then we'll get you to Boulder. Then we'll get you to Salt Lake City. We'll have you touch all of the trail running communities.
Touch them, but not get near their Strava segments.
So what section are you pulling Ingvild on as a pacer next weekend?
I'm going to be doing Forest Hill to Rakachaki, which I'm super excited about. It's
Cal
beautiful.
Street.
That's in my mind, that's the fun section of pacing. So you're
cool.
going to be in for a treat.
I've been told it's also the hot section.
Yes.
Just for our fan favorites, or our fans out there of other South African runners, such as Ryan Sands, will you say hot pockets? Will you say the word hot pocket?
Yeah.
No,
that's a thing.
like say it.
Hot pocket?
Hot pocket.
Hot pocket.
Ryan has some famous interviews where he talks about the hot pockets of Western States.
He does. Great reference. Great reference.
Well, Ryan's got a very specific accent. He lives in like the lentil curtain of Cape Town.
Okay.
So he's got a very niche accent. I wouldn't say that I speak like Ryan. Okay. No. I don't do the like my brews and
You know, another good South African word is that you don't say crewing, you say seconding, right?
Yep.
Look at us. We're educating the trail running world right now.
On
This
South
is so
African
great.
lingo.
I didn't even know that one. I'm out of the loop.
Lekker, bro.
Lekker.
Lekker.
Also not one that I use, but yes, that is appropriate.
Amazing. Any final comments, questions?
I'd love to hear from each of you where we're going to see you racing next. Obviously, we know UTMB and CCC are on the calendar, but will we see you racing anywhere else between now and then where Klaire might be lining up as well, but beyond Mount Marathon?
For me, the next thing that I consider a race is Western States. It's not short, and I'm assuming it's going to be hard. So my goal this week is to really just recover as hard as possible. After that, I'll be back in France, and the goal will be preparation for CCC. So I've signed up for some small low-key races, one in Italy. So yeah, it'll be cool to just kind of test things out, get some big training blocks in. I think this year has been a bit rocky, so the goal is really to just be consistent now up until UTMB. And then after that, I'd really love to do Le Templier. So we're trying to convince a group of us to go.
I think we have
I love
a group.
this idea.
I think we have
Great race.
Come to Le Templier, 80K.
Yeah.
We've got an insane women's field.
It's going to be wild.
Coming. It's going to be awesome.
Who's lining up? Like Ruth Croft
Danny
probably
Moreno,
coming back. Danny.
Yeah.
Jen Lichter,
MK.
Emily Schmitz, MK Sullivan.
Yeah.
Holy smokes,
Make
folks.
Le Templier great again.
Travis is in the chat here. He's already working on the fantasy roster. He actually had a good, we want to continue finishing these questions, but he said that Scott Patterson from Alaska won Minotaur today too. So Scott Patterson.
And I think Caitlin won the Xterra Trail champs out in Vermont. His sister yesterday, I think, or because I think Joanna Fortier was racing as well.
Okay, Klaire. So where are you going to race? Outside of Mount Marathon.
Well, first I'll just say, everyone should have their eyes up for Scott. I hear rumors that he's doing speed goat, so yeah, sorry, Scott, if you didn't want people to know that. But Mount Marathon, which is, I'm hoping to recover well because that's on July 4th. And then I'm thinking about maybe bopping down to Oregon and doing Y East. And then it's just OCC, and I kind of want to do something longer in the fall, but
Templier.
a little unsure. I could be convinced, maybe.
Little 80K romp in October.
Okay. But I'm just happy to get through this one healthy and feeling good. So, that's my plan.
I could be convinced to do that. I think I'm already convinced. Sign me up.
MK, you hear that? Amanda's coming too. To Templier, Amanda's coming.
Smash and bash 'em.
Potentially. I have been doing this strategy of trying to not think too much in advance.
Love it.
Because I think there's a good part to thinking, in the future or whatever and planning things out. But I think I do that a little too much and it kind of screws me up. And so I think I'll just race UTMB better if I don't think of anything beyond that. So that's all I got.
So this is the big training camp leading into UTMB at the end of the summer.
Yeah, race-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably do a lot of boulder
More
running.
training, obviously.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this will
that's
be a massive training stimulus, and we're so grateful to all three of you for spending the extra time to come sit with us here on Freetrail's Trailgating Show. Congratulations on amazing podium performances, and congratulations again. Big round of applause for our women's podium here. Toni Mccann, Klaire Rhodes, Amanda Basham. What a race here today. All right, MK Sullivan's going to come jump on stage with us. We're going to go through... We're going to go through some more of the top 10 results, and then we're going to preview tomorrow's 23K before we sign off for the day. MK will put you on the end there. Ryan may want to adjust the cameras. Bear with us just a second here. While we're changing things up, just want to give a big thank you to the feed. Go to thefeed.com/freetrail or thefeed.com/trail society to go get free cash to spend on your favorite nutrition products. I've been smashing those Morton 160 gels, getting the carbohydrates in the grill. This is a hot weekend, and as appropriate, the orange drink just launched, which we have on the table with us. The camera probably can't see it right now. Orange drink from Gnarly Nutrition. You can get it at thefeed.com. That's got lots of sodium in it. So a big thank you to the Feed for their support of our program here today and this weekend. And I think we're ready to go.
Let's preview the 23K.
Well, before we get to it, let's just bang through the whole top 10. We can just rap out about it for 5 minutes on both races, and then we'll preview the 23K. I've got the top 10 on my computer, if it'll turn on here. All right, so let's go through the men's top 10 here real quick, and then you guys can comment on it. So, of course, we had David Sinclair, Jeff Mogavero, and Adam Peterman, our podium performers. Behind them in fourth place was Cam Smith, who's doing the Triple Crown this weekend, a former VK champion here at Broken Arrow. He finished in 4:21.58. Guangfu Meng, it was great to hear from him from China at the press conference, 4:27.34.
Signed up at 6 a.m. this morning.
Did he really?
Yep.
He's going to be pacing Fuzhou Zhang next weekend at the Western States 100. So awesome fifth place performance signing up the morning of. Cole Campbell, who was in the studio here, great young kid out of that Western State College Development Program from the Gunnison area in Colorado. He was sixth, a great result for him. Nick Handel, the Bay Area's finest, in seventh. Greg Krathwohl in eighth. Gordon Gianni in ninth. Giannini and Joshua Reed, who I just talked to, in 10th. So going around the horn here, obviously we've talked to all the podiums here. Any high-level takeaways from the men's race or specific performances you want to point out?
The two things that stick out to me are I love seeing Peterman back. Like, he's on his comeback tour, and whatever that means for him, I just am so excited to see him back in the sport. He's a great personality and someone that we want in the sport for a long time. And then Cameron Smith, the young gun, skimo athlete. Our fans for Freetrail won't necessarily know this, but he's podiumed in a World Cup. He's been top 10 at Pyramenta, and he's an 11-time U.S. national champ on skis, which that's like Joe Gray status. And he's
young.
And he's young, but he's just been.
Isn't he like the only American to podium in a World Cup?
I believe he is. Yep. And when I was talking to David Sinclair about the Olympics in 2026, he was saying, Cam is our best athlete right now in the U.S. And I just think it's really exciting to see him out here. He's been here a few times, obviously, but he's coming off an ACL surgery, which is a big thing to come back from. And just over a year later, he comes out here and put his name in the mix. He was leading the race with David Sinclair and still finished a solid fourth place. I just think that we're going to see a lot more of these crossover athletes in ski and trail, and it's really exciting.
Great point. Yeah, I was just going to bring up the skimo thing too. Obviously, David Sinclair is a ski mountaineer. Cam Smith, Jeff Mogavero. Yesterday, the fourth place woman in the VK. Hallie from Denver is a ski mountaineering athlete. Of course, Morgan Aratola has been a champion here in the VK. She's an Olympic Nordic skier.
Oh, yeah, and there are a number of skiers too who have showed up to US 50K champs when they're out east, like Simi Hamilton, who is one of the best American sprinters. On the men's side, has shown up there, and you're you don't see him run by being that's a 50K runner, and he just destroys everyone.
The other thing I was going to say about the men's race is Dude, tough day. We didn't ask either the men's podium or the women's podium about the conditions, but
was
everybody
nasty
was
out there.
suffering. You tell us a little bit about it, MK, because you were out there.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was going to be hot. We knew it was going to be like 80 degrees is what it was saying. And it felt like when we started the race, it was probably 50 degrees. And I swear to you, it went from 50 to 85 like in 30 minutes. Like as soon as we left the trees, I was like, I'm sweating so much. And it's like, it's not even 8 a.m. yet. So it was rough out there. And I think I got in my car to go shower and it was 88 outside. So like way hotter than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it looked rough out there from a heat perspective. We saw a lot of athletes getting soaked down. 2 years ago, I think we were getting snowed on during Broken Arrow weekend. I was the coldest I've ever. I didn't bring a down jacket with me. It's like the coldest I've ever been leading panels. So this year definitely feels very, very different.
Right, I remember that too. I had a hoodie on with like a heavy down jacket. It's a totally different ball game here. Nick Handel, poor guy, in 7th place. Saw him at high camp. Hands on knees, sweating his face off, asking for sponges on him, doing the deep breathing. Everybody was suffering out there. Nick, just one example of such. Any other comments on the men's race before we touch on the women real quick?
Just super fast.
Super
I
fast.
think that was a 20-minute PR, 21-minute PR for David on what
From
is
a
a
similar
very
course.
similar course.
I was just going to say 11-minute victory from David
That's
in front of
insane.
Jeff Mogavero and Adam Peterman.
Because
Really
he had
solid,
3
solid
minutes
run.
on that chase pack at the after the first lap, and then he just extended that as he pulled away from
And
them.
the fact that he negative split that, I'm really impressed with because we don't see that often in ultras, but I think we could start to see that more and more, especially if we have additional loop courses like this where you just bring it home fast. We see that in all other disciplines in running.
I love what David said about liking to think of himself as an underdog. When I saw him come through high camp in the video that Ryan showed, you probably can't see it, but he had like the super try hard face on. Like he knew he's in the lead. You know, he's got some of the world's best behind him, you know, obviously wanting to bring the victory home as a local boy, at least until he moves back east. But what a solid stud. And yeah,
Seriously.
like you said, the type of attitude, the type of athlete that I certainly admire, you know, the guy who's not necessarily tooting his own horn, doesn't have any sponsors, and
Has
comes and
nothing.
beats some of the best in the world.
But he's rocking a champion shirt. It was like a Supreme collab. But a fun fact, back in 2022 when he had that heater of a season, the week before almost beating Adam Peterman at Canyons 100K, he came and dominated the Mammoth Skimo race, and it just shows his versatility as an athlete, and I love it.
Just a beast. All right, go ahead, MK.
I was just going to say, I have to say that I am 1-0 against David. So I have beaten him once.
Yes.
What, today doesn't count?
I dropped out.
Yeah,
so
okay, so it
I didn't
doesn't
finish.
count.
Doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
There's no proof.
I beat him at Mont Blanc Marathon in 2022.
Yeah, all right, great.
But that was like literally a week after he won this race.
All right, great. The women. So again, we had Toni Mccann, Klaire Rhodes, Amanda Basham as our podium. Behind them, Lindsay Allison from Telluride in 4th place. Great result for her. Sarah Gould in 5th. Emily Mann in 6th. Heather Henry in 7th, Barrett Gray in 8th, Lauren Williams in 9th, Colleen Sands in 10th. Corrine, maybe start with you. Any results deeper in the women's top 10 you want to talk about? Lindsay Allison, I know you were talking about Barrett Gray before the race too.
Yeah. So, I was really thrilled to see Lindsay move into 4th. I think that was a really great race for her here, and I think she's become a really dialed athlete over the last 4 or 5 years. But I was really excited to see Barrett Gray racing today. I'm a little bit biased as a Washington, Seattle area human at this point, and Barrett is one of those kind of Seattle crushers. She's definitely under the radar. She had a phenomenal Tillamook burn 50K earlier this spring there where she blitzed the field, and I just think that, she lives at 30 feet above sea level, so, and I don't think her and Blake have been out here for that long, so that was definitely a come from sea level, get yourself destroyed. So I'm really excited to continue to follow her, and she'll be, I think, debuting her 100-mile at Run Rabbit later this year, and with the opportunity to go to altitude ahead of time. And I'm really excited to continue to watch her grow into an incredibly talented ultra runner.
I would like to give a special shout out to 9th place Lauren Williams, because she's an athlete that I've been coaching for probably 4 years now. And
Heck yeah.
Lauren is a total badass. She does all of her training. She's actually, this is a training race for, she was focused on it, but a training race for 100K, and she's already texted me and said, I am not running tomorrow. Thank you, though. She was, when I dropped out, I passed her, and she was very hot, and so I'm just very proud of her squeaking in that top 10.
Awesome. So do we know much about Emily Mann or Heather Henry, the two Canadians who finished 6th and 7th?
We are lower 48 bias on
All
this
right.
show.
Well,
I
shout
know
out
Danny
to
and I didn't even talk about them in the preview.
Yeah, and I think this race is always an opportunity for established names to have amazing days and for up-and-coming athletes to have big breakthroughs. There are people probably in our audience shaking their head being like, they've done X, Y, and Z, and they are names now that we will remember the next time we do a preview, the next time they line up on a start line, and I think that is very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs a breakthrough. Everybody needs their chance to shine, and Broken Arrow provides that platform for up-and-coming athletes every year. So shout out to Emily Mann and Heather Henry coming down from Canada to kick butt here in California. I think we can move on to the 23K. It was an amazing race here at the 46K, probably the most competitive 46K in Broken Arrow history.
Definitely.
So again, another testament to how this race has developed over the course of its illustrious history. And what a fantastic race weekend. We'll talk more about that tomorrow as we wrap up. But this race is just one of the best in the world. Talking about the 23K, MK, this is directly in your wheelhouse. The Sub-Hub co-host, the expert on sub-ultra distance racing. You can get us started here. Of course.
Who do you want to start with, men or women?
Yeah,
Yeah, and if you didn't listen to MK,
Hold on.
go.
Before we dive into it, I just have to tell our listeners, go to fantasy.freetrail.com, navigate to the events tab, then go to the Broken Arrow 23K and pick 5 deep tomorrow. Before you do so, you're probably going to want to hear MK and the rest of the panel provide their analysis. MK, get us started. fantasy.freetrail.com.
Yeah, for sure. And Danny and I also did an episode this week, so make sure you go check out that as well, because I'm sure this will be a little bit shorter than that, but that's all right. I am stoked for this women's race tomorrow. Obviously, a bit of a bummer to see Grayson Murphy drop out, but we've got Joyce Mathoni, we have Danny Moreno, we have Tabor Hemming, we have Allie Mack coming back from the VK, Jade Bellsberg, who did pretty well in the VK as well, and Amanda Basham. I mean, like, I was so impressed with her 46K today after the VK. Like, I've got no doubt she's going to be in the mix
She's
tomorrow.
like, oh, it's not my race, and she's still gonna like throw down tomorrow.
I mean, now that she's got the mindset that she's like, I'm just gonna go out hard. Like, can you stop her?
Dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
It's gonna be exciting. And
I love what
obviously
she said
there's
too
always
about
more.
the attitude, right? Because tomorrow's the day when the attitude could really deteriorate, going into a stacked race with super tired legs. You know, on that first climb, probably see people who are much fresher pull away. That's the test of the good attitude. So it's awesome to hear her say that.
Yeah, adding to that, we've got Rachel Tomazik, who I think was also in the VK yesterday. This distance, the 23K, I think is very much in her wheelhouse. Had a good Vail Mountain Games.
Yep.
Last
I think she
week.
finished 6th here either last year or a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So she knows this course really well.
Yeah, I think she's looking to throw down. And then two very interesting names on the top of my list include the likes of and they are opposite because one could be the other athlete's mother. It is the Dipsy champion herself, Chris Lundy, at 53 years old, will be, I think, running the 23K tomorrow. And that to me is so exciting because she's a Bay Area gal. One Dipsy is just like so phenomenally talented. 23K is a great distance for her. But speaking of young guns and could be her daughter, you've got Sammy Smith out of Boise, Idaho, I think is 18 or 19 years old, has gotten U.S. ski team starts already on the World Cup, and I think is going to be starting for Stanford on their women's soccer team this year. So
Versatile.
it's like, can you talk about how we are...
We got to have her on the show tomorrow.
We
That would be
are
amazing.
old and gonna retire, and we've got the likes of, Sammy Smith being not only a standout in one sport but in two sports. So I think that we've got some bookends to the women's field that are super interesting when we look at the spread of athletes out there.
Yeah, and somebody that I missed and I'm looking at now is also Claire DeVoe, second at Chuckanut.
First at Chuckanut.
First at Chuckanut. Is this her first time running a distance this short?
She ran the Gorge 30K.
And she ran the North Bend Skyline 30K as well.
Yep, third
And
at the
so
Gorge
it's
30K.
I think the 30-ish K, 23 to 30K is really a good distance for her.
Yeah.
Chuckanut, I think, is on the long end for her, but is a mega, mega talented, kind of Seattle area athlete.
Tough to come to altitude, though, for somebody
100%.
like Claire,
And
no
it's
matter
hot.
how talented you are.
And it's hot.
And it's hot. Yeah, it's not Seattle.
No.
High and hot. It is not
It's
Seattle.
gonna be warm.
All right, one thing that our listeners will definitely want to hear, especially MK, talk about a lot of the favorites tomorrow are doubling back from the VK. Danny Moreno is sort of the lone exception to that. Talk about
Danny
how that changes the race dynamic and anything that you know about Danny's consideration about not starting the VK when a lot of these women did.
Yeah,
Because she did the same thing at Mammoth too. We'll remember.
Yeah. I think that VKs are not Danny's thing. I don't think they're anything that she's interested in. So I think that's why she didn't start the 23K, or the VK. But obviously, it puts her in a better position for the 23K as well. I think somebody like Joyce Muthoni is going to have no problem recovering from something like that.
It was a 5
VK.
out of 10. She said we asked her
I
on a scale of
saw
1
her
to 10.
finishing, and I was like, she's walking. So I think that like Joyce will be fine. I mean, likely most of them will be relatively okay. Allie Mack will probably be fine. She's done this so many times.
Yeah, she did not win the VK last year, but then came back and just annihilated everyone in the 23K last year. So I do think we're gonna see a bit of that.
And she knows this course so well. I mean, Joyce's, I think, downfall will just be that she doesn't know this course. Danny hasn't run this exact course. Well, actually, she and I previewed it 3 weeks ago, so she knows what it looks like. She hasn't run this exact course in a race, but she's run something similar and won it. Like, Allie's obviously won this race and has run it very many times. So I think just having the knowledge of the course, because that climb out of Shirley Canyon is where the race is made or broken, I think. I mean, I remember when I ran it in 2021, I think I was maybe 5 minutes back from Janelle at the top, and I ended up making up like 3 minutes.
And that was your first trail race, right?
Yeah. So, like, if you know that is there, which Danny does, Allie does, it's like, okay, this is only 8 minutes of hell. But if you don't know that it's there, it feels like forever out there. Because I remember even knowing that it was there, I was like, this is the longest uphill of my life. But it's literally, I think Sophia's course record up Shirley Canyon is like 7 minutes.
Whoa. Now, in this, do you think they're going to stay as a pack initially, or is Joyce going to try to break away early? How do you think the dynamics are going to play out?
I think based off of her race at Japan, she'll probably try to break it up early. Like, she seems to do fine at altitude, or not Japan, sorry, China. Mm-hmm. She seems to do fine at altitude. She took off in that race and like never saw anybody again. So that would be, my guess is that she will take it out hard. I'm guessing that at least Allie goes with her. Danny, it depends on the day for her whether she decides to just kind of send it or if she plays her own race and like sits back and hopes that maybe they come back to her a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So 23K is what, like a 14-mile race with 4,500 feet of climbing for our viewing audience here.
Yep.
Talk about Joyce a little bit, because we had her here in studio yesterday. First time I'd ever spoken to her and got to know her a little bit. And I think all three of us were, I think, struck by how charming and friendly and pleasant she was to chat with, and obviously a ridiculous talent who's got the world ahead of her. You being the sub-ultra distance expert that covers the space, where does Joyce fit in the sub-ultra distance culture? Is she sort of like the woman to beat right now globally?
I think so. I mean, after her performance at China, she didn't do as well at Japan, but like that's a very technical course. I mean, she was second last year at Sears and All to Sophia Lockley. And obviously that was a phenomenal performance by Sophia. Sophia's won here before she has the course record. Joyce obviously has the ability to like run with her. I mean, I think that she actually was running up on Sophia at some point, whatever that means. Sophia still won by quite a bit, but Joyce has the strength. She has the experience. She's been in the sport for quite a long time, actually. And I mean, she's obviously has the talent as well.
Unreal. It's going to be a heck of a race tomorrow.
It's going to be a scary race tomorrow, and I can't wait to be out there, hopefully giving some cheers, yelling, giving splits out there, out on course. Going to head out early before the start tomorrow to be able to make that happen. I guess we should probably also dive into our men's field, unless anyone has anything to add about any more women.
Well, I mean, Patrick Kipyego, undefeated so far this season. 2 Golden Trail races, victorious in Japan and China. The VK on Friday, taking part in the 23K tomorrow. Patrick probably comes in as the hot favorite. I think we would probably all agree. But behind him, there is an immense and dense, talented men's field. Who wants to get us started and talk through some of the characters?
I mean, I can.
Yeah, I think you should. He is the sub-hub queen.
I mean, Patrick is obviously seemingly unstoppable right now. I maybe would have put Eli ahead of him prior to that VK, but now I don't think so.
I switched it.
Yeah, I switched it. I love you, Eli, but
love Eli, of course.
Yeah, you're not listening to this anyways. So, but Mika, Mika Boudin-Rousseau surprised
Stud.
the hell out of me. Like, he is so fit. Obviously I knew he was good, but I just didn't think he was ready to put out a performance like this. I think Cam Smith still probably squeaks into the top 10 realistically. Talon Hull was here 4th year last year, I think. Christian Allen. We've got Darren Thomas, who has been second at this race before, and I think this is much more up his alley than like the VK at this point. Philemon, probably going to be top 5. Like, this is just the beginning of this men's list, honestly.
Yeah, it just is one of those things that keeps going and going. And I do think that, despite doing the triple, I do think that Cam likely finds his way into that. I want to mention that while Talon Hull says that he's from Seattle, Washington, I believe he's actually moved out of Seattle now and is living in Colorado or Boise or something of that nature. So I do think that he's living at altitude. I don't think he's based in Seattle anymore. You've got other skiers like Sam Hendry on this list who have seen do really well there. A World Teams member, Joseph Demore, on that list, etc. I feel like and then you got locals or like oftentimes locals like Pat Parcell lived in this valley for a very, very long time. Another kind of skimo guy in the mix, and that's before we get into some of the other international
Remy,
runners.
LaRode. I mean, Jesherin Smalls in this race. I keep
Jesherin,
forgetting about him because he's like,
Jesherin's the example in the men's race of somebody who didn't race the VK on Friday, who's got a shot to podium or top 5 here tomorrow.
And then young gun out of Ashland, Oregon, Dylan Humberger had an amazing race at Chuckanut. Was the first place where I really got to lay eyes on him, and he is fast, he's young, he's hungry.
I'm pretty sure he's getting married next weekend. He was at Gorge in April, and I know he's getting married really soon because I asked him if he was going to be at Western States, and I'm pretty sure he told me that he's getting married Western States weekend. Could be wrong about that, but Dylan Humberger tomorrow will be one of those under the radar guys who will have a chance. We mentioned Darren Thomas. Corrine, you and I will remember a couple of years ago when Joe Gray, the illustrious American champion, the best mountain runner in American history on the men's side, came and won the 23K, but he and Darren were in the finishing chute together. He won by 2 seconds. Darren's been the VK champ here. He was 10th in the VK yesterday.
I believe that Joe Gray turned around, wagged his finger no, and shushed Darren before he crossed the finish line. They were so close.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway, he's a Reno, Nevada guy. He seems to be in good fitness. He's just a great kid. So somebody who I'll be watching and rooting for tomorrow also. And yeah, we can't forget Philemon. Obviously, this is kind of a revolutionary moment here in American trail running where Joyce and Jeru and Patrick Kipyego, 2 Kenyan athletes, come and win the VK. That's really the first time that's ever happened on American soil. It could be that they repeat tomorrow, but also we can't forget Philemon. He was in the top 10 in the VK too. Philemon Kiriago, another Kenyan athlete who we'll be watching out for tomorrow.
He won Sears and all last year.
Yeah.
So this is probably a better. I mean, he's a very good vertical athlete, but this is probably a better distance for him.
It's very similar. It's up and then down.
Yeah.
Wait, we mentioned this yesterday, and I think I recall you saying at Mammoth last year that Patrick is the better pure climber, but that Philemon was the faster, flat runner.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that? Yeah,
I think it mostly goes that way. Like, if you look at their, especially their WMRA results, Patrick tends to win the uphill ones. They're almost equal prior to this year with wins and losses against each other. But yeah, Philemon tends to be the faster, trail runner, and Patrick is more of a vertical guy.
Didn't Philemon get the better of Patrick at Mammoth?
He did.
Yeah.
Neither of them ran to their potential there. It'll be exciting to see them come back this year. But yeah, I think it's going to be a wild race. And
and that being said, Patrick finished second to Philemon at Sears and all, so he was very close.
Exactly.
And then notable non-starter on here, which is important to mention, is that Chad Hall was signed up.
Unfortunately,
for the
Chad's
race.
out.
And it's just that's
Heartbreaker.
Good. Yeah, heartbreak. Ran really well here. Also, it's important to note that last year we had really, really, really high winds on 23K morning. We had to delay the start kind of last minute, and we pivoted to 2 laps of the 11K course in order to get the race to happen at all. So a very for those athletes that were here last year, this is obviously back to the normal, the original 23K course versus what they all raced on last year.
I feel like we just glanced over Christian Allen, and it was so cool to have
him kind of in the race
on the panel yesterday, and him telling us the fact that he's training with all the Olympians.
And he's going to be super hungry after Mika got the best of him by a couple seconds there. But yeah, you're right. His training partners are on the U.S. Olympic marathon team.
Somebody commented on our YouTube yesterday, is that Joe Dirt?
His mullet is unreal. That's like goals, honestly.
Yeah.
Best
So
hair- best
anyway,
hair in
it
the
definitely
business.
like, you know, on this wave of the future, Christian Allen sort of on the leading edge of that wave. Also, two other people I wanted to mention, the East Coast representative, Dan
Kurtz.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything on him?
So, I mean, Dan is one of those guys that I think he's in that league of Christian Allen, but he just has had some struggles over the last 12 months. But I think he's just waiting for his breakout. So if he did not race the VK, correct? I don't believe.
No, he didn't.
Yeah,
No, he did
so
not,
he
yeah.
forewent that where, maybe that is a perfect, this is his coming out party. He's had some amazing results, but he is one of those guys that has incredible foot speed. He's technically savvy. I could see him putting together an absolute burner out there.
And
So hard.
He's been here. He's been at altitude in Tahoe for
Good.
at least 3 weeks. So he's very serious
You
about
preempted what I was going to say. It's just like no matter how talented and fit you are, if you come straight from New Hampshire to Olympic Valley and try and hang with someone like Patrick, who's from the high altitudes of Kenya, you're just not going to be able to, no matter even if you are on the same level when you're racing at sea level.
Like with Dan and Chad and Mika, I've chatted with all three of them, and we've talked about trying to put together like a little training camp in Mammoth specifically for these races, kind of like what the Kenyans are doing, because Chad and Mika both have really strong ties to Mammoth, and Dan is very interested in just like going wherever the best are. So I keep planting that seed. We want to have this Mammoth training ground where we start producing some of the best short course.
The athlete house is going to come back.
I
remember?
stayed at the Mammoth Crib once,
did?
so come on, let's
It's still
fill that
open.
thing
It
up.
is still open. Helen
We
was
could
there
set
last
up a
week.
podcast studio there and absolutely
Oh,
go
man.
ham. All right, Dan Kurtz.
I don't think we talked about, or did, maybe I missed it, but have we talked about times for this one?
No, not yet.
Okay.
There's one more athlete I want to
Oh, yeah,
mention just
Yeah.
because we've talked about so many skiers. Sam Hendry, who's a sort of a young guy who's been really tearing it up on the Golden Trail
Yeah,
World Series in the last couple of years.
But has been in Salt Lake because he's been skiing for U of U.
Yeah.
I believe that Sam is either in the process of or is already going to med school in Canada. So I think that's why he's kind of been a little bit more up and down lately. He's a little bit more focused on that. But if he has a good day, he's definitely somebody to watch out for.
Stud. All right, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, with this field, it's absolutely loaded. And we saw David Sinclair in the 50K negative split and run 4 flat.
Disgusting.
He was 28 seconds from breaking 4. What do we think the winning time is going to be for this race?
The course record is 150, right? From the year that Sophia also broke the course record. I think it's 150.
Andy Wacker ran 150 in
Yeah.
2022. Last year, we'll remember, we had to have a 11th hour course
Yeah.
adjustment. So looking back at the historical results, 2022 is the most recent time we ran this course. Andy Wacker ran 150.11, and Sophia that year ran 206.18.
Yeah. I think
Over or under?
the men are for sure going under. I think the women will
Even
either.
if it's hot?
I think so.
I'm with MK on
yeah,
this
I
one.
think
Yeah,
I
because
think they're
by the
running
time you feel
145.
really hot, you're going to be headed down towards Shirley, and
Yeah.
I feel like Shirley feels like a little bit of a
It was
reprieve right
nice.
now. And then once you get out of Shirley, it's like gravity. It's all gravity.
Yes, I think even with the heat, and I think it maybe if I haven't looked at the forecast, but it was supposed to be less hot tomorrow originally. I think the men are going at least 145.
Hot update from the chat, folks. A big thanks to Adam Mueller here. Dan Kurtz took the escarpment crown on Strava some days ago.
Hey,
Uh-oh. That's
So he did
that's
his-
a segment.
he did
That
his
is a
own
proud
little,
segment.
little ascent.
Come on.
Yes.
All right,
The boy
so
is
Dan
fit.
Kurtz is acclimatized.
The boy
So
is fit.
That has been established.
But on the women's side, I don't know that anyone runs faster than Sophia.
Yeah.
If they do, it'll be barely, I think. That was a big breakout race for
Allie
her.
Mack was 2 minutes back of her in 2022, 2:08.22 for Allie.
I wonder, if Joyce runs away strong, that might be the person who can get
under 2
that.
maybe, but
Yeah, come down towards that 2-hour flat mark. But I think you're right. I think we're going to see something around 145 for the win on the men's side. And if Joyce in particular takes it out hot and survives the downhill, I think is the big thing. I know that she was a little bit worried about some of the technical elements.
It's a bit technical, so.
But we do know that there is some blazing fast downhill as well that she can really open it up on.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if Joyce is the person who might be able to bring it down to closer to that 2-hour mark, dipping under Sophia's time.
I'm going to go with that. I think she's going to be closer. I think she might break Sophie's record.
All
and
right.
also, do you know anything about Joyce's just pure foot speed or road times?
I actually have never looked that up, but I mean, just the fact that she's second at Sears and all says she's probably pretty fast.
So let's play a little game. If Joyce and Danny are neck and neck as they hit the fire road, who's going to win in that battle?
That's
We know Danny's a
great
1:13 half
question.
marathoner.
Yeah, just because.
Let's just pray that happens
Yeah, let's
for all
pray
of
it
our
happens.
entertainment.
I'm sorry to Joyce and Danny if that does happen, but we're hoping for it.
At your own expense, we want to see this.
We want to see you absolutely destroy your quads.
Now I feel like we gotta look it up because.
Yeah.
Did you look it up?
I did not look it up.
Oh my
But you
gosh.
could look at her IAAF
What are you looking
profile.
up?
How-
Her half marathon.
Okay.
what we've got for
If
Joyce
she's
on the
even run
roadside.
one.
Yeah.
Well, while we look that up, the race does start at 8 a.m. tomorrow. It is predicted to be quite warm again, but in a 2-hour race, maybe they won't be experiencing the toll that many of the
does start
46K
later.
athletes did today. But 13 and a half miles, 4,700 feet of climbing. That is a burly 23K that the runners will take on tomorrow.
I'm taking Danny Moreno.
Uh-oh, you heard it here.
We got a
Sub
1:40.
I mean, I can't go
co-host.
against my local
I know.
girl. Man, like, she would never let me live it down. But Joyce, I mean, the way she looked yesterday, she's going to be hard to beat.
Amazing. All right.
Joyce has a 1:14.41 half, and I think Danny's is low 1:13s. And this is from 2022, so it's fairly recent.
Okay.
I
Any
want it.
closing comments
I
here
want
from
the
the
drama.
panel before we look ahead towards tomorrow's race and then trailgating?
No, we're excited.
I'm excited to
I'm
watch
going
the
to be
race.
all over that course tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Literally, you're going to run the course with them?
Basically.
I love it.
I'm getting a head
Corinne's
start.
jumping in the race.
I'm getting a head start. I did run an 8-mile race recently, so Sub Hub, I'm coming for you.
Uh-oh.
Better watch out.
Yeah, so everybody go subscribe to the Sub Hub, listen to some of those podcasts that they put out leading up to Broken Arrow this weekend, and then obviously go to fantasy.freetrail.com, pick 5 deep in tomorrow's race, the 23K that wraps up Broken Arrow race weekend. It's been an amazing start. The VK was sick. Today's race, like we said, the best 46K in Broken Arrow history. Tomorrow, I'm sure, will not disappoint. Also, before we go, obviously, also smash the subscribe button. Come on, we're working super hard here. We're
You
putting
remembered.
together the shows. My boy Ryan Thrower behind the scenes is clapping for me. We're going to clap for him. A big round of applause for Ryan Thrower on the 1s and 2s. We got Tony with a Sony helping out here. Scott Roke is holding it down for the whole Broken Arrow media crew. Zach Marion in the back. I think Harmony's hard at work behind this little display behind us too. So we got a big team working to keep you entertained and informed all weekend. We are scheduled to come back on air at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Obviously, we've been late the last 2 days. We apologize for that. Follow us on Instagram. We'll put up some stories to confirm when we're going to be going live, but we're planning on around 11 a.m. tomorrow after the press conference again. Our guests tomorrow, in addition to the podium, we've got a star-studded group. Danny Moreno, your co-host, is going to be coming and joining us after her race, assuming she's not on the podium, but she'll hang with us either way for much of tomorrow's show. We'll have the crew from Believe in the Run. We're going to talk about some gear-related stuff in the back half of tomorrow's show, and also none other than the race director himself, Brendan Madigan, will join us in studio. We'll talk about all things Broken Arrow, including the lack of a live stream this year, what that means, but especially focusing on what makes this race one of the best in North America, one of the best in the world. You got to come out to Broken Arrow if that hasn't been made abundantly clear. MK Sullivan, Tim Tollefson, Corrine Malcolm, I'm Debo. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.